Yeah, so honestly, I really don't do an introduction or anything like that. But if you wanted to introduce yourself and just a quick summary of who you are.
Yeah, man. I Hunter Bailey, cover the Charlotte 49ers and the Charlotte Hornets for the Charlotte Observer. We have a podcast, the Highway 49 podcast, just kind of covering anything going on in Charlotte. And you can find my work any of those places and on Twitter or X at Hunter_Bailey 45. So yeah, man. I've been covering the team for about 8 years and just covering the Hornets. This is year three. So yeah, man.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I've caught you at a really, I think, interesting time for Charlotte football in particular. Obviously, just athletically, right? Your athletic director, Mike Hill, just got, fired, unfortunately. What has it been like over there? Obviously, the football team's also been struggling, to get some wins in the win column. What has it been like just covering the football so far?
Yeah, this is so they've moved on from a couple coaches here recently. They fired Will Healy in 2022, hired Biff Poggi the following year, fired him sub 2 years, just 22 games for him. They go 6-16 during his tenure, and then they hire Tim Albin, who is probably the most qualified guy they've had in this seat. 3 10-win seasons in a row in the MAC, a couple MAC Coach of the Year awards, and a MAC title. Uh, this past November basically, and you look at where they are now. NIL is just the killer with this program. Their roster valuation this year is right around 1.4 million. And then you kind of look across the American and you see schools like South Florida with near 8 million. Memphis, obviously they have a ton of financial flexibility at these schools, and that helps with obviously, reloading talent every year. But when you bring in a new staff, you're able to keep some of those guys there and not lose so many of the top end talent or so much of the top end talent. I think that's what's killing this program is seeing the quarterback from a year ago to Sean Purdy, who you're thinking, hey, this is the guy of the future. You don't have enough NIL money to pay him. He's out the door. He's at Wake Forest now. He made a pit stop at Florida. So the talent's just not really there at this program right now. And I think the biggest thing in college football specifically, and I made this reference on the radio the other day, if there's a slot receiver and he's a future draft pick, could even be a late round pick, sixth, seventh round NFL draft pick, and he's being guarded by a future insurance salesman or insurance broker or whatever, who's going to win that matchup every time. And that's what Charlotte's dealing with right now. And I don't mean that to slight the players. A lot of really great people and obviously athletes around this program, but they just don't have the talent to match up. And you're seeing that when games like this past week, Temple, for example, comes to Charlotte, and Temple hasn't won more than 3 games in a season since 2019. They haven't won a conference road game since 2019, and they come into Charlotte on their homecoming and boat race them in front of what's a really good crowd. So the fan side of things, the fans are frustrated. They continue to turn out, continue to sell out Jerry Richardson Stadium, but the product just continues to diminish. And it's been a lot. Let me rephrase. There's a lot of frustration, and I think that's kind of what led to the Mike Hill firing. I mean, you get your third football hire. You start the year 1-5. Your only win is a shootout against an FCS school, and that's kind of where it is. I think the fans still believe in Tim Albin. Like I said, he's the most proven winner, and I don't really know how many 10-win coaches are gonna come to Charlotte from the FBS level. And so I think he's definitely the guy for the future, but they've got to give him the resources to compete. I think that's the biggest thing. That's what's going to unlock the coaching ability. Because, like I said, talent is such a differentiator in college, whereas in the NFL, the talent is maybe kind of level. There's some guys, some studs, Josh Allen, whoever you want to talk about, but the coaching is really what sets it apart.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the NIL difference and the ability to pay players and whatnot. Where does Charlotte? I assume it's in the bottom third of the American, but just where, broadly speaking, do you imagine they are?
Yeah, so I don't have numbers for all the schools, but as far as I know, bottom third is an accurate representation. Like I said, when Biff Poggi was here last year, they got up to around 1.5 million, and they were hoping to exceed that this year. They weren't able to, and now it sounds like they're trying to get up to 4 million. But the NCAA, I guess, threw them a curveball, and I mean, pretty much all the schools cutting down to one transfer portal window. So now it's
Yeah.
in January, whereas they had a December and an April window, so you could, go to the well, go to your donors, get the funding, bring them in and have two shots at it. Now you just have that one shot to get whatever money you're going to try to with the portal. So, like I said, they're trying to get up to that $4 million mark, which would be a lot better than what it is right now. And I think the product on the field would reflect that. But they're in fundraising mode right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's yeah, obviously, yeah, you mentioned Tim Alvin's first year, at the helm of everything. Obviously, you guys are 1-6, 0-4 in conference play right now. Just how do you kind of evaluate the coaching job he's done so far with the limited resources and not as much success as you'd hope?
I will say the injuries have kind of ravaged this team, and I've
Yeah,
talked about it a lot on my podcast of just the margins are too small, even with all the talent for some of the, I guess, mistakes like penalties have kind of plagued this team early in the season. I mean, they lost 20-3 to North Carolina. That's Bill Belichick, one of
yeah,
his, I think, only wins so far. And you look at that score and you say, okay, North Carolina dominated them. The game was close. Like Charlotte had every opportunity to get in and win that game, but crucial penalties, just self-inflicted wounds early in the season. It was like they couldn't figure out how to utilize their personnel, especially on offense, and they lost. Their starting quarterback Connor Harrell to a knee injury for the season. So now they're kind of just bouncing back and forth between their second and third string quarterbacks. The coaching side of things, I've seen it improve. The penalties, it's like a downtick in penalties every week. They're minimizing the self-inflicted errors, and they're playing like a football team at this point that has nothing to lose. And I think I like to see that at this point. I mean, it's not the NFL. You're not tanking for a draft pick. You're not
yeah,
like everyone out there is playing for pride at this point. Tim Albin is a good coach, but if you have bad players and it comes to this point, it reflects on you. So I know that he is doing everything he can to pull the talent they have, put them in the best positions to win. And like I say, it's tough when the margins are so thin. Like even in that game against Temple, the first quarter, just this last week, is 7-7, and you're kind of feeling all right. Like could be a good game, a decent chance for Charlotte to win. Next time you look up, it's 49-7, and it's
yeah,
like, okay, yeah, it's they can't. They got to protect the ball, man. They've turned the ball over in all 7 games this year, and they're not taking it away at a high enough clip to maximize and keep it competitive. So that's a long way to say it's the coaching is okay,
hmm
but I don't think they're playing with a full deck talent wise either.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the first. Funny enough, I think it's one of the first clips I've ever seen on your X account was back when Biff Poggi was the head coach and he was reading out that laundry list of injuries last year. Is it reminiscent of that? I assume it's not as severe, but
So I mean it's actually worse. So that
oh
was
wow,
so Biff Poggi was a very good like showman, I guess you could say. He's just great with the media. And there was some gamesmanship. Like I will never forget when he walked in the day before the season opener or 4 days before or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I give myself an F minus this offseason. We have 8 or 9 starters missing for this game against JMU. And everyone in the room is like, what? And at that time, we were able to watch practice. And we're not able to watch practice at this point under Tim Albin. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I was just at practice. Like I know who is out there. I know like we've been watching this. So he was good enough to like I say, some gamesmanship, some things like that. But injuries have just kind of always compounded with this program, and I don't understand the kind of the root of it. I've been trying to figure that out, trying to do some reporting on it. They recently fired their head athletic trainer. Um,
yeah, wow,
yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do there because I just keep hearing stuff about misdiagnosing players, a lot of stuff like that, and you're seeing. I mean, like the American does the availability reports now, which I love
yeah, me
because
too.
most coaches won't sit up there and say, well, I've got this guy and this
Yeah,
guy and this guy. So it's nice to just be able to see it, and it makes my job easier. So instead of running around on the field pregame, is this guy dressed? Yeah, is this guy dressed? Okay, is he going to play? Probably. We just know, 3 hours before the kick. So that helps. But Charlotte, their case, it looks like a CVS receipt, man. They've got 13 guys out for the season, 18 guys on the list as of last game, and you hope that that they change. maybe their off-season training program, their rest to recovery ratio, how they lift, what they're feeding their athletes. And I've asked Tim Albin about it. He said there's nothing that they're able to pinpoint right now, but they're working towards that and hoping to improve. But I assume when that question comes up, and then shortly after you fire your head athletic trainer, that they've figured out or identified something and are making changes and hopefully improving on that in the future. Because yeah, man, it's
Yeah,
hard to win when you're at a talent deficit. It's even harder to win when your best players are on the sideline with injuries. So
seriously. All right. Well, yeah, that's the state of affairs, and obviously this Friday is going to be a game against North Texas at Charlotte. So you'll have a front row seat to that. I won't be able to make it, but what do you kind of just imagine from that matchup coming off that Temple loss, like you mentioned?
yeah, so on the Charlotte side of things, like they are going to have to play turnover-free football. That's the only way this game is competitive. They're going to have to find ways to run the ball. North Texas is down there with Charlotte on the run defense department. They're the bottom two in the league. But Charlotte's really struggled to get the run going, and all of their running backs have fumbling problems. And I mean all of them, dude.
Yeah.
Like every tailback that has taken 20 or more carries this year has fumbled multiple times. It's been rough for them. That's where it's going to start for Charlotte. I assume Grayson Loftus will get the start at quarterback. He's a Duke transfer.
Mm.
He's had a couple good moments this year, but for the most part, struggled to take care of the ball. And that was kind of the undoing in the Temple game. I mentioned the close in the first quarter. He threw a pick six, and really from there, just kind of the wheels fell off. So if Charlotte's to compete, they're going to have to find ways to steal points on special teams. And I've talked a lot about them playing like a team with nothing to lose, fake punts, just playing playing to entertain your home crowd. I think that's what they've got to do right now because North Texas is going to score a lot of points. They're going to move the ball a ton, and they're going to take the ball away. And with Charlotte, they're going to have to find ways to strike first, score early, and not settle for field goals. Like early in the year, man, they were settling 4th and 2, 4th and 3 in the red zone, kicking field goals every time. And you've seen that kind of methodology kind of go out the window. Now they're going for it. If it's plus territory, if it's 4th and 8, 4th and 9, they're going for it because they
Wow.
know
Yeah.
that's just kind of what it is. And um, like I say, I think you'll see a desperate team Friday night, tomorrow night, and we'll see how it goes because I know North Texas, after that South Florida game, they looked angry against UTSA and they came out. They handled business and they know what they got to do to get back in the race in the American. So I think they'll probably handle business very efficiently tomorrow.
I understand. Yeah. There, I'm gonna ask you a little more about that Temple game because you like you mentioned, right? I think you guys had a similar result against South Florida, but that's kind of expected, right? Considering where South Florida is in the American and whatnot. What was the biggest reason why you think that margin of victory was, or yeah, for Temple at least? Just why were they able to beat you guys just so badly against Temple?
Yeah, I think it goes back to roster construction. It goes back to I think the want to. And what one thing Tim Alvin said after the game is he's talked even in some of these lopsided losses, even after South Florida. Like I don't know how much of the South Florida Charlotte game you watched, if any, but the first quarter of that game, I'll just quick preface and then I'll talk the Temple game.
No, please.
The first quarter of that game, it's just slaughter. I mean, it's 16-0 right off the jump. South Florida blocks a punt after getting two touchdowns for a safety. It's 23-0 at the end of the first. And then it's like Charlotte makes a QB switch, puts Zach Wilkie in the game, and they kind of get back into the game. I mean, it's a two-score game early in the fourth quarter, and you're kind of looking around like, I mean,
Yeah.
one turnover in this game could be interesting. And then it was like South Florida, it's just like okay, and then put the pedal back down and pulled away and win by 28 or however many. Um, the Temple game was different. Whereas you saw Charlotte battle back and kind of get that spark against South Florida, they never got that in the second half of that Temple game. It was 28-7 at the half. Charlotte got the ball coming out of the half. So I'm thinking in my head, this is make or break. If you go score a touchdown here, maybe we see something fun here in the second half. But your first drive out of the half, you lose 2 yards, you go three and out, take a delay of game before the punt, and you're just kind of like, this is what you got. And the offensive line has struggled all season. They're missing their kind of heart and soul in that group. Johnny King, there's a chance he plays tomorrow night, but that's kind of been the tale for the past 3 or 4 weeks. He's dealing with a back injury, so that's got to
Yeah.
be careful with that. The offensive line has been a real struggle. So the quarterbacks, I think the clock in their head is just so sped up. And even if they have time, you're so used to having to take the dump off for the check down or break the pocket and try and make something happen that when you do have time, like I say, it's already in your head of like, I might have to get on the move. And they just haven't really been able to like identify their identity on offense and stick to it. Like in years past with Biff Poggi, you knew that they wanted to run the ball. And they were going to run the ball so much early in the game that when a team would load the box, Deshaun Purdy and Omega Blake, Charlotte's two stars last year, it was literally just, hey, go long. And then they would hit a 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown. But this year, they don't have that type of talent like Deshaun Purdy's at Wake Forest now throwing touchdowns. Omega Blake's at Arkansas now having 100-yard games scoring touchdowns. They
Yeah.
just don't have that type of I would say just like a racer, just like a dude on the field that can make that happen. And their best receiver on offense is Sean Brown, 6'4", lanky dude, one of the fastest guys on the team. He really has an NFL build, but it's taken him like 4 or 5 games to figure out that he's really good at football, even though that he led the team in receptions last year. So that was a head scratcher. But that game gets away from them Saturday nights, and Tim Alvin said he saw the team kind of maybe not give up, but saw some things he didn't like in the effort department. And you could tell in the fourth quarter of that game that no one out there wanted to be there. And I these are like big spots for Charlotte, man. I mean, this is an
Yep.
ESPN two game Friday night. It's gonna have a lot of eyes. North Texas is a great team in the league. It's a chance to like look competitive and be the part, even if you don't win the game. And like I say, they need to find ways to do that in these spots because they've had a lot this year, and every single one where they've had this kind of national stage, they've gotten ran off the field. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, and North Texas, like you mentioned, is that first opportunity. Looking at that rest of the schedule, just what do you imagine are the most um, possible chances for Charlotte to pull off their first conference win of the season?
Yeah, admittedly, I did not think North Texas was going to
Yeah.
just dismantle UTSA the way that they did. UTSA, I look at as, I mean, it's Charlotte's kind of last home game of the year. It's your senior day for some of these guys. So, you hope that's a game. They've never lost to ECU. They're 2-0 against the Pirates. They're headed to Greenville. They won there a couple years ago, a really low scoring game. And then they got Georgia. So they
I
go to
do
Georgia.
notice that.
They
Yeah.
go to Georgia. So that'll be fun. And then they go to Tulane, which is just a tough way to end the season. And we talked about it, man. Like when they fired Biff Poggi, we pulled the schedule up for this year. I was like, oh my God, whoever takes this job is in for a tough schedule. Because even, I mean, when you look at the league, they dodge Memphis and Navy this year, but they get South Florida, North Texas, Army, who
Yeah.
maybe is down a little bit from last year, but is still a good team. Tulane, who's always at the top of the league.
Yeah.
East Carolina, who's always tough. And then their non-con scheduling is always just rigorous, dude. I mean, years past, they've had Maryland, which is, relatively winnable in some of these games. They beat Duke in 2021. But this year it's at Georgia. Next year,
Yeah.
Ole Miss comes to town. They go to Louisville. There's just, I think they've got to just in a broad, like a macro look at the program. They've got to find ways to schedule differently because I understand that 1.8 million to go play Georgia is great for the program, but you know damn well that you're not winning that game, so your chance to get to that 6-win bowl eligibility mark is already a tick down. So instead of 12 opportunities to get six, you now have 11. And that's how it is next year with Ole Miss. And they go out there the year after. It's just I think I want to see kind of a mindset shift with this team. And I think that new AD will probably make that move. So it's the back half of the schedule is not a lot of wins there, but you hope they at least get one more for sure.
Absolutely. All right. All right. And then yeah, just to finish off, Hunter, I'd love to get your thoughts about what you've seen from North Texas. Obviously, you mentioned some of the things that you were keying in on, like the forced turnovers and the high scoring offense. Obviously, that's the big strength that North Texas had in the last couple of years. Just what have you kind of seen?
Yeah, the quarterback mess maker is good, man. The Tim Alvin talked a lot about the touchdown interception ratio. I think it's 17-3 off the top of my head. He's
Yeah.
doesn't make a lot of mistakes. It's kind of hard to speed him up. And Charlotte's pass rush really hasn't been there this season. I think they're either tied for or have the lowest amount of sacks in the league this year. Watching North Texas, like even back to the Mason Fine days, I remember.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's Charlotte has never lost against North Texas, which cracks me up when I look at that. And it goes back to like 2019, Charlotte had a crazy comeback. They're 2-5 at the time, the 49ers. They beat North Texas at home, win 5 games in a row, and go bowling. That's their best season ever. That like started the run. And you look at this year's team, you know North Texas is going to score. I think it's what, two or three different backs, all with 300 or more yards.
Yeah.
They've got they've got options, man. And I think they're all going to get a hand at it against Charlotte. It's opponents can run on the 49ers. That's been the thing. So they're in these second and manageable, third and manageable situations. So instead of Charlotte's case, they're behind the sticks a lot, self-inflicted penalties, false starts, pre-snap issues, things like that. Teams are second and three, third and two, easy manageable situations, and they keep drives alive in that way. Like I say, Charlotte's going to go for it on fourth down. I expect them pretty much every chance they get in this game,
Yeah.
and they're not converting at a high clip, so expect short fields for North Texas offense. And when I think short fields as an OC, I think chunk like shot plays right after that. So short fields, quick opportunities to score, and I think there'll probably be a lot of that here tomorrow night.
Well,
And
I understand. I understand,
try
man. I get it.
I try and like that's the thing is I know this sounds like just the degrade Charlotte side of things, but when you're I posted something the other day. It was like I've watched a lot of bad football through the years,
Yeah.
covering them since 2018. I've seen one winning season. There have been some fun seasons along the way, some really good moments. But watching teams and feeling like there's just no shot to get back in a game is kind of where they're at right now, and it's just compounding to that. And some of the bright spots with the team, like there's a very young kid, Derek Ely, tiny guy, man, slot receiver, one of the fastest dudes on the field, blazing fast. They just put him on scholarship. He's actually their highest graded player on PFF right now, which good for him. He's like I say, he'll be a kick returner in the game tomorrow night, be a slot guy, so he's fun to watch. I
Yeah.
think they'll probably start using him in like jet motions, a scat back, not just, in the slot. So he'll be fun to watch. And some of the guys on defense, man, like their linebacker core is a good group. Shea Taylor, Caden Schmitz, two guys coming over from Ohio. It's tough when the run every time if it's getting to the second level, it's just gonna be tough. So yeah, that's what I got on that side.
No, I get it. I get it, man. Yeah. Um, yeah, amidst this struggling season, I'm glad you're still here making it through. I'm glad
Yeah.
basketball is available for you to, take your mind off of football once in a while. I'll have to for sure tune into that Georgia game. I mean, I just can't imagine what that game will play like.
Well,
But
Georgia's funny, man, and I was talking to some friends about it the other day because they asked me jokingly, they're like, "What do you think the line is on that game? Like a triple digit line and this and that?" And I laughed and I was like, "Georgia plays with their food in those
yeah,
games a lot. Like you'll look up and the final will be 38-10, but at one point in the game it's like 10-3 in the second quarter." And I'm like, "How is this even remotely a football game?" And that's one thing too, back to my point a minute ago.
mm,
I'm used to watching Charlotte get get beat like that by a Power Four, Power Five school, whatever you want to say. Like they went to Death Valley in 2019, played Clemson with number one Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, lose 52-10. They've lost to Maryland. There's just a lot of big schools that through the years. But when you're, as we talked about earlier, the Temple game, when you're losing to a school in your league that's not that far from where you are, talent wise, financial wise, first year head coach,
yep,
and you're looking up and that's the score, that's when the red flag is all the way up. It's like, okay, what is going on? And that's just kind of where they are right now.
I got it. Well, Hunter, thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna try to record real fast and then wrap up.